also including you in Littleville. I know a lot of people on our Facebook live stream commenting that the sirens are going off, obviously, for the tornado warning. And just if you're in the polygon right now, just make sure to seek shelter. That would be the lowest level of your home. Avoid windows. Find an interior room, such as a closet or a bathroom. But the rotation, I think, that prompted the warning, and now moving east of Vina, but it's kind of broadened out a little bit. And this is going to be an entire evening of just kind of tracking these little areas of rotation that spin up very quickly. These tornadoes would be of the EF0, EF1 variety. But continuing to watch this as it progresses eastward, you can just kind of, if you use the tool here to the query tool, we've got the severe thunderstorm warning, obviously, but Jeff, you might have an easier job doing this using the link system, kind of showing some of the velocities that we're dealing with using the dropper tool. But a lot of the winds that we've been sampling here have been in the 50 to 60 mile per hour range. Farther to the north of this tornado warning, we haven't forgot about you guys to the north. We are still tracking the threat for straight line winds, obviously, farther to the north if you move into parts of Colbert as well as Lauderdale County. But this tornado warning does include you guys in parts of western Lawrence County as well. So, Jeff, maybe show some of the winds potentially that we're dealing with.
Yeah, and within that line of storms that you see there, you see the heavy rainfall moving closer to Russellville and also into Littleville as well. And Crooked Oak, too, now part of this tornado warning, just on the cusp of Town Creek. But we do track a little bit in the way of some rainfall and also some winds. And the winds themselves have been, it looks like that the surface, how we know if they're actually making it all the way to the surface, we just don't. We need to know, we would need somebody to tell us ground truth that it's actually that strong at the surface. But the winds themselves, for the most part, probably gusting about 50, 60 miles an hour. And you can see that in the velocity tool. And what I'll do is I'll kind of click that for you, and we'll go ahead and get that right there. Where is that line going? There it is. We'll get back to it. Right through here. And I'll take the drop tool and go ahead and show you all the different wind gusts that we have in this area. And you can see that for the most part, we're going to get some 50s and 60s, and they'll come up here in just 1 second. And overall, this is your area of very strong winds right through here. And the drop tool will start to kind of clue in here on where they are. There we are. And get a little bit in the way of some winds right through here. And I can't get that drop tool to work, unfortunately. But this is your line of very, very strong winds, 50 to 60 miles per hour as they move off to the east. So if you're in Florence or Tuscumbia or Sheffield, that is the area that will be tracking some of the strong winds. So even if you're not in the tornado warning, where there could be a little bit of helicity and also some spinning, this is the area that's going to have a wall of wind and rainfall, and in addition to having some spin-up tornadoes. So just because you're not in the tornado-warned area doesn't mean that you're not going to have any kind of damage with the winds as we go into the next 15, 20 minutes, tracking through Lauderdale County, also northern Colbert County, as everything continues to move from west to east. If you're in Cherokee right now, off to the west, this storm is mainly moved east of you already, and that's what's going to happen. As this line continues to race off to the east, you're going to see a big drop-off behind it, and the threat will end very quickly. Eric?
Jeff, if you right-click on that blue box on the mouse, that will get rid of the tornado warning for you. And then also the shear tool going to be helpful here. We could go back over to Max 2. I'll put another storm track on this for you. This is focusing now on Franklin County. This is the area that we're watching right now. This is approaching Alabama 187 in Franklin County, so everything moving to the east about 55 miles per hour. Concerns with this would be obviously a brief spin-up tornado, straight line winds potentially in excess of 60 miles per hour, and just moving very quickly here. You're going to have a lot of heavy rain. Obviously it is night, there is some lightning, but if a tornado is developing, you will not be able to see it. Again, if you are in the polygon, we encourage you to seek shelter, lowest level of your home, and find an interior room away from windows. Looks like potentially this area right now between Guin Crossroads and Old Navajo tracking east there. So this is going to be heading for you in Russellville. If you are in Russellville right now watching, I encourage you to go seek shelter now, including the Isbell community, right down 43 there, and then now approaching Nix as well as Phil Campbell. This is going to be a big surge of wind coming. Does not matter if those winds are rotating or in a straight line. We'll likely see some trees coming down across the area with this big gust of wind that we have moving through. Jeff?
And speaking of some of those winds, drop tool there showing some of those gusts. And when you see 69, 75, 64, 59, 63 cutting through the Russellville, Florence area and Tuscumbia and Sheffield and moving to the east, those are essentially getting those elevated up in the sky. So you're not having them right at the surface. But if any of these winds are mixing down to the surface with these thunderstorms, then you will have some gusty winds at the surface that could be over 60, 70 miles an hour. That's what's warranted this severe thunderstorm warning that covers most of western Lauderdale County, parts of Colbert County, and then you get into the potential of a little spin-up activity where you see this red box that extends now all the way to Lawrence County as well. And we'll continue to track that as we go into the evening hours or overnight hours. The winds, one aspect, the heavy rain, the next aspect. Keep in mind, too, some vivid lightning, too, as this line continues to move off to the west and east. And we'll track the potential timeline of this a bit as we go into the next couple of hours here. And you can see, I'm going to kind of take this out. You said take it out about what, 55?
55 to 60, I think, is a safe number there. 53 will do it now just for the sake of the graphic. But there's your storm timeline on the left-hand side of your screen. Again, this is moving at a very fast pace. So these warnings, I think what we'll see through a lot of the evening are kind of these larger severe thunderstorm warnings, Jeff, that we typically see when we've got a line of storms moving in for that widespread threat of damaging straight line wind. The tornado threat is going to be a bit more difficult. We'll be watching that area for areas of rotation embedded with the line. The more north-south oriented that line comes, it almost makes it slightly easier to actually see some of the trends as how that line is actually behaving.
Right, and that's a great point to bring up too, because as the line moves more to the east, seeing some of those embedded possible tornadoes or spin-up tornadoes might be a little bit easier as we go through, which is usually very challenging in a setup like this. So here is where the towns are. I went ahead and did about 55 miles per hour, which seems about right. The speed was about 55 earlier. And here's some of the times for your towns on when the storm is going to be there. So in Moulton, 11:50, you are not in the tornado warning. But obviously, if there's a tornado warning and it's right up against your particular location and there's a little bit of spin going on here within this area right here, obviously now is the time to maybe take some necessary steps to get to your safe space. If you're in the Cortland area, Speak area, obviously Phil Campbell area, this is the time when you want to make sure that you are away from windows on the inside. And this is what we track. We try to give you a heads up. And sometimes with this situation that we have, the scenario that we have playing out, where you get those spin up tornadoes, it can be very difficult to give you that heads up because it's so hard sometimes to pick up on where that's happening. But we know that there's wind with this. We know that there's heavy rain. We know that it's moving west to east, and now would be the time to take some precautions if you are preceding this line. So if you are to the east of the yellow and the red, now is the time to take those precautions as the storms move closer to your area. Eric?
Yep, back over to First Alert 2 here, still tracking this tornado warning. Obviously, if you are in the Vina area and you are sheltering, it is okay to come out of that safe space now as the threat has passed. Still expecting some heavy rainfall and some very loud lightning, loud thunder and frequent cloud-to-ground lightning. So now the strongest winds, again, we're in Franklin County here in northwest Alabama, heading toward you in Russellville and also Phil Campbell. So the more populated areas of Franklin County, you are about to experience the worst of this, as right now the strongest winds are crossing over Alabama 187, heading toward you in Phil Campbell as well as the Russellville area. So pulling back the view here and you look at the radar imagery, and just kind of setting the picture here, still have a severe thunderstorm warning now. This does include you in the Quad Cities. Very strong winds expected right now through Florence, Tuscumbia, Muscle Shoals. This will eventually head toward you in eastern Lauderdale County, including Anderson and Rogersville. If you're in Town Creek, this is coming your way. Tuscumbia, I'm sure the winds are really picking up. That severe thunderstorm warning continues. That goes until 11:30. It is 11:13 right now on your Saturday evening. Some of you might just be joining us on our coverage. We do have a live stream going, and Jeff and I will be here for the entire duration of this event, tracking storms and trying to keep you guys alert and safe for the rest of the evening. With this being an overnight event, have to stress this. A lot of you potentially going to bed. Make sure you have multiple ways to receive those warnings as they are issued. A NOAA Weather Radio and your free 48 weather app. Those are great tools to have that can actually wake you up if you do tend to fall asleep this evening.
Yeah, I think a lot of times, Eric, when you have those night storms, it obviously adds an extra element of danger because you can't see outside. But here's where we're tracking some of the heaviest of rain right now. And if we have a spin up taking place, which I don't see, and Eric, tell me if I'm wrong, it looks more like just a wind event at this point as it moves east. But there is still a tornado warning out. We'll keep an eye on it for you. But I don't see anything that would indicate any kind of spin up here. But this is now parallel to 43. So here's Crooked Oak. You got heavy rain now and probably some very gusty winds. But if you are east of here, like in Littleville, Russellville, Rockwood, down 43 to Phil Campbell, I imagine your winds are really picking up right now, preceding that line as it continues to move off to the east. And that's what happens is you don't have, like, when you look at the radar, a lot of times you have the WAFF 48 app, right? And you look at the radar, you see the reds and you see the yellows all up and down your area. And you think, okay, it's right over the top of me. I've got to have the strongest winds. But sometimes that's not the case. The outflow of the actual thunderstorm itself will likely enhance the winds preceding the actual line itself. So some of your strongest winds could actually be right in through here, just east of all that red and yellow that you see all the way down from essentially Hamilton up to Florence. And as it continues to move east, it's that area that's right before the main line of rainfall that could increase some of the winds up to 60, 70 miles an hour. We've already been tracking the velocity on this, and we've already been tracking not just the tornado warning in the Russellville area over into now western Lawrence County, but we're also tracking the rain, the winds, continuing to see this back edge where you see a 74 there, right? A 66. I mean, these winds, they're up in the atmosphere with the storm itself. Whether they're actually reaching the surface, we don't have any ground truth, but when you see 60 or 66 or 74, you know that high end wind potential is there with this line of storms, and that's in addition to the isolated tornado threat and the heavy rainfall as it continues to track west to east.
Also using that shear rate tool, kind of showing the people what we're talking about when we're looking at that line and how potentially, we're monitoring those areas of rotation. This is going to be basically on top of you in the Russellville area right now, heading toward the Rockwood community and also Phil Campbell. Now, seeing the green, that shows that there is definitely some spin or shear out there prevalent, like Jeff's pointing out right now. It's when we start to see that maroon color and definitely the yellow color, we know something's happening. But this is kind of an easier tool for some of you at home maybe watching. But that area of strong wind, rotating winds potentially, at least above the surface right now, moving right over you in Russellville. So if I were you in Russellville, I'd certainly be in your safe spot right now, and also heading toward the Rockwood area too.
Yeah, and the shear rate tool is great. So if you're watching at home, the legend is up here. It's a little hard because it kind of caught up in the banner a bit. But green means there's some kind of shear, but the higher the color you get into like this red or this yellow, which is extreme, you have a pretty good indication that there's something there happening. And don't get confused with the lightning strikes, which are yellow too, because I know that can be a little bit confusing. But it's the shear rate that we're looking at. And that shear rate goes all the way up into the Florence area too. So as you're tracking areas up into West Lauderdale County, where there's not really a tornado warning at this point, you're still dealing with what could potentially be some very strong winds. St. Florine on to Killen right now. Florence, this is Cox Creek Parkway, 133 coming down Florence Boulevard. And then if you're working your way onto East 2nd Street or Muscle Shoals out by the airport in Sheffield, I imagine those winds are really gusty right now. And they're associated with thunderstorm activity that continues to move off to the west to the east. And keep in mind, for areas to the west, this is only the beginning. I mean, this line has to move all the way across the area into the Tennessee Valley through areas of Huntsville, into portions of Decatur. That will happen around midnight, and then moving off to the east. And this is the kind of activity that we're going to see moving west to east with the potential winds. And anytime you have a little spin or a little notch, we're going to add that tornado warning, and that's what we have to the south too. Eric?
Yeah, I've got an updated storm track for you guys on First Alert 2. Here we go. Again, Russellville heading toward Phil Campbell, including you in Littleville, but Tharptown 1124, Posey Mill 1129, toward the Hatton community 1135. Youngtown there, 1138, Moulton, 1143, Hillsborough, 1145, continuing to track to the east. We're starting to get some reports coming in of potential damage. This is in Lauderdale County. Mentioned those very strong winds. Jeff's been highlighting that as well through the Quad City area. But the threat for straight line wind damage with this line of storm is going to be the big story as we go through the evening. And Jeff kind of pointing out, we are just getting started with this too. But there's your latest storm track, going to move farther to the north now, just to show you what's going on with the northern part of this line. And now the line becoming a bit more north-south oriented. It was kind of starting to surge out a little bit there in Franklin County. That's where we had that area of rotation, or two areas actually that prompted the warning. But if you're out there in Rogersville right now, that's coming your way. This is going to cross over as 72. If you're in Killen, these winds potentially in excess of 60 miles per hour. Now getting some reports again from Lauderdale County EMA. No injuries with this, but a tree has fallen on a house. And you have to think of how much rainfall we have seen over the past several days. And the ground is saturated. The tree roots will be a little bit looser in that soil. So it's not necessarily going to take that severe wind gust or that spin-up tornado. I think we could see a lot of trees coming down across the area, power lines as well. If you have an opportunity and you're nearby a charger, why not charge those devices when you can, or just grab a flashlight and keep that close by.
Yeah, I think a point, too, to bring up, emergency management personnel do a fantastic job of keeping updates coming through the National Weather Service chat. And we're updating that all the time for you and letting you know and passing those along when we see some updates. And though they are incredibly efficient and do an amazing job across our area, sometimes you get a little bit of a delay in those reports coming in. So I imagine with this rainfall and this heavy gusty winds that continue to move from west to east, we're already getting reports of damage across the area. It very quickly escalates those reports once the line continues to move to the east. And as it starts to clear areas to the west where you've had damage, those reports start coming in. And then all of a sudden they start piling up and you're getting a whole bunch at one time. And that's that ground truth that I was talking about, whether or not those winds are actually reaching the ground. Well, reported, you said, Eric, roof off the building, if I remember correctly?
I believe there is a roof collapse there. That's coming from Lauderdale County. And then tree reported down on a home too with no injuries, so that's obviously good news. But that is kind of setting the tone for what we're potentially looking at for the rest of the evening as this line comes through and we start getting more and more of that ground truth and more reports coming in of trees down across the area with potential power outages.
Yeah, and that's a great point too, because when you say, you know, the potential, or what we had, a wind gust with a roof down, no injuries. That's the most important thing. And that's all we're trying to do here, is just to keep you aware at home of a storm line that's moving through the area, knowing that if you are in this area right here, tracking to the east, this is your time to start to prepare for some damaging winds, heavy rain, and that chance for a spin-up tornado. And you can see the timeline, follow the box to the left. If you're in the Hatton area, about 11:31. If you're in Rogersville, 11:36. If you are in Moulton, 11:41 is the time now. And again, that tornado warning, which is in the Russellville area, I just don't see anything there that really jumps out as an actual spin-up tornado, but the tornado warning continues, and it goes right up into the Hatton area and right up into the Moulton area, so it includes parts of Lawrence County as it tracks west to east. And Eric, what time does the tornado warning go to?
I know the severe thunderstorm warning is 11:30. I think it might be 11:45.
Okay.
Getting reports now, 200 people plus without power in the Florence area. And we're going to focus, back to First Alert 2, please. Thank you very much. Focusing on the northern end of things, where we're getting this big line of wind coming in, just to get you a few more towns and give you guys that early heads up. I would say this is certainly a storm that would warrant you being on an interior place in your home, lowest level, preferably away from those windows, because we'll likely have a lot of debris flying around with this too. But Killen, 11:24, that gives you less than 2 minutes here. The Leeton area, 11:27. Lexington is 11:31. 11:34 for you in Town Creek. 11:38 Rogersville. Again, that's kind of on the southern part of things that have the active tornado warning at the moment. You go toward Cortland at 11:40. Hillsborough, 11:48. Bethel, and then eventually Trinity and Athens. And again, we're on TV right now. We'll continue to cut into programming, of course, as needed this evening. But even if we do go off your TV when this warning expires, just know that we've got a stream. Okay, now I think we have a new tornado warning there potentially coming out. Looks like it just popped up. And this is going to be a larger warning now, including areas looks like Lauderdale County now into Limestone County, includes you in Athens, as well as a good portion there of parts of Colbert County too, east, northeast Colbert County. So starting to see some of these larger warnings coming out. Jeff?
Yeah, and I want to try to get back and show you the shear rate here. And this is important now. And now that we see this warning, and it's starting to get to the point now where we're starting to see a little bit more in the way of warnings across parts of Lauderdale County, now into Limestone County as well. So here we are, line of storms here. The tornado warning now goes all the way through Athens. So that includes areas like Anderson, Leicester, Athens, North. It also includes the Ardmore area as we continue to track the potential for some kind of spin up here within this line. And a lot of times too, you know, it doesn't take much to see a little notch there and say, hey, let's go ahead and put a tornado warning out, because this is essentially a line that's moving west to east, and you want to make sure that you are prepared to see any kind of tornado activity. And why not put a tornado warning out just to be safe? If it's caught up in that rainfall and it's very difficult to see, if you issue the tornado warning, everyone knows that they need to take cover. And it's this area from Loretto all the way down to Killen, and as you work your way to the shoals, that we could have maybe a little bit in the way of some spin-up activity taking place. So this is you here in Rogersville. Here's you in Anderson and Lexington. This is awfully very close. So what you want to do is probably take a little bit of extra time to get yourself into your interior area, stay safe as this line moves closer to the area. And keep in mind, even if you don't have a spin-up tornado taking place along this line, you're going to have some very gusty winds with this. We already have ground truth of that, of gusts up to 60, 70 miles an hour. So whether it's the wind or a tornado spin-up, it's all coming your way into portions of Lexington, Anderson, Rogersville, and down towards Cortland, as this tornado warning has been added to the original one that we have off to the south. Eric?
Yeah, and with this tornado warning, it's you in the Killen area right now. I would say you have the most imminent threat. Jeff encouraging you to go to your safe space here. But downstream to the east, you've got Rogersville, Anderson, Lexington, eventually to the Leicester community and far northwest. Limestone County, Athens is in this warning too. This is going to happen very quick. A lot of straight line wind with this. Continue to track this, and this is essentially going to march right down 72, Highway 72 that is. So if you do know someone that is potentially driving on 72 right now, or 207 for that matter, 99 up there, you've got 101 going through Lexington, you have to call them and let them know what is happening right now. So this is a new tornado warning. This will go through midnight. I'm going to put on that storm track for you. Jeff doing a good job explaining kind of these areas of rotation that we have. If you are in the Quad Cities there, Florence, Muscle Shoals, your threat is going to be winding down here probably over the next 5 minutes, I would say, in that safe place. Leeton here, 1127, 1132 for Lexington, Rogersville, 1139, Hillsborough, 1148, Bethel, 1150, Trinity, 1155, Decatur now, we're talking Morgan County, just after midnight, Cache Point, as well as Harvest too. So this is an impressive line of storms. We have active tornado warnings, but I think the straight line winds are definitely going to be that more widespread concern for you. Now we move through parts of Colbert County. This is going to include you in northern Lawrence County and other portions of Lawrence County, just outside of you in Moulton. In Moulton, you might not be in that warning right now, but know that you've got a lot of wind coming your way. So this is moving very fast too. So when it's on you, you're going to know, moving east at about 55 to even 60 miles per hour. Hatton area, Town Creek, heads up. This is all coming your way. Russellville, give it about 5 more minutes, and I think the threat will be well off to your east after that. Phil Campbell still going through some of the worst of the winds that we're tracking here, and then moving into parts of Lawrence County. So multiple tornado warnings at the moment. This is not the springtime lightning that you're going to see, but you have to know it is night. Any tornadoes that are developing are going to be rain wrapped, very difficult to see, and it's going to happen very quickly here. Continue to track this line moving through. Jeff?
And Eric, you know, I'm watching you explain everything there on the radar. It is so difficult to see those notches in there. I showed the shear rate earlier, but this is very, very difficult. And that's why I think you see multiple tornado warnings issued for the area, because if you have something inside, if you have a little tornado or a little spin up within this line itself, you want to make sure we keep you all safe. So let me go ahead and kind of get this tracked off to you where you see the rainfall. And for our Tennessee viewers, no warnings for you at this point, but in Pulaski, some heavy rain moving towards you, Lawrenceburg, some heavy rain. But all the action right now is confined to areas along I-65 and west. And now the tornado warning, I do believe, Eric, has been extended into the Decatur area as we're continuing. It's not just a wall of severe thunderstorms now producing heavy rain. Within this entire line, the National Weather Service issuing those tornado warnings across the area. And what they're doing is, by doing that, is letting you know at home that this wall of wind and rain could also include a couple spin-ups in there. And that's what we're tracking. I'm going to try to get a little bit of a timeline here for you. I want to try to get that out, go 50. I'm going to go like 56. So there's a timeline. So we just see this tornado warning added to the Decatur area, Cortland area, Hatton area, and also a tornado warning up towards Anderson. And here are your timelines as it moves closer to your area. And the timelines over here to the west, Coxie about 11:44, Mount Roselle about 11:45, Bethel 11:50. But closer timeline, you get closer to the Rogersville 11:36. Town Creek on your doorstep in about 2 minutes. So this is all going to happen very fast. As this line continues to race to the east, winds and rain will increase, and you just got to be very careful that there'll be a possibility of a spin-up tornado within this entire line, and that's why the National Weather Service issuing those severe, or tornado warnings rather, that extend for a large portion of the Tennessee Valley at this time. Eric?
Jeff, why don't you zoom in really quick on parts of eastern Lauderdale County. So this is moving through Killen as we speak, but this is heading toward you in Lexington, Anderson, Rogersville, all coming your way. Leicester and Elkmont farther downstream off to the east. But I think right now this has developed into potentially probably the worst part of this line, moving right over 43 and essentially 72, kind of in that intersection. There is that little uptick in lightning that we're seeing too. Sometimes that is a sign that this line is potentially intensifying or gaining strength the farther east it moves. But it's going to be right there in that area. So Killen, Anderson, and Cortland area, definitely be in your safe spot right now. Find that lowest level, that interior room. And then also the Leeton area, Town Creek, this is on you right now. Town Creek knocking on your door. Now we start focusing on parts of Lawrence County, including you in Hatton. Hillsborough, you've got a little bit of time. Trinity now in that tornado warning, as well as the city of Decatur. Now we're talking parts of Morgan County. This is a little ways away from you, but this line of storms is moving so fast at that 55 to 60 mile per hour, speed from west to east. So Russellville, you guys are all right. Still quite a bit of lightning around, but you could probably come out of your safe spot now. Phil Campbell still dealing with strong winds there. You just have a severe thunderstorm warning at this time. Kind of just thinking we'd get a lot more of these blanket severe thunderstorm warnings through the evening. But now there's so much kind of uncertainty talking about this line and those potential notches right now that the Weather Service kind of opting for the larger tornado warnings. This is going to produce a lot of wind, potential embedded areas of rotation too. But this is really speaking volumes here. Starting to get a few more reports coming in from Lauderdale County, and this is where we're looking at the strongest wind right now. So Anderson, Rogersville, heads up. If you're in Limestone County, Athens, you've got a little bit before the worst of it makes it to your way. Now we're talking about northern Lawrence County too, especially you in the Hatton area. Heads up, I would seek shelter right now.
And Eric, we talked about how there'd be a potential for probably some blanket severe thunderstorm warnings to keep everybody safe. This is blanket tornado warnings is what this is. So I put the shear rate back on, and again, here's your legend, green, red, yellow. And you can see where you're starting to see a little bit more in the way of some yellow, and then look how long this is extended. This goes all the way now from the Tennessee-Alabama state line, which is just to the north of you in Lexington. This goes all the way down into Lawrence County. This is a large area of potential spin-up tornadoes that could be taking place right along this line, in addition to some very heavy rainfall. I'll try to go back to the velocity here for you. And here it is. Look at that line right through here. And that is where your strongest winds are taking place right now. And like I said before, I understand that the tornadoes get all the attention, and I understand. But this right here, if these winds are making it down to the surface, that is some damaging winds right along this line here. So many of these locations here are picking up winds about 60, 65 earlier. Maybe not quite as impressive as I thought, but still big impact if they're getting mixed down to the ground. There very well could be a little spin going on too. All this area right through here on your way into Cortland right now, this is like literally a wall of wind and rain headed your way. And if you mix in a little spin on top of it, this becomes a very dangerous situation as we start to move west to east. And even though Moulton, you're not in the warning here, you see how you're just south of that, I'd still be taking precautions right now and getting to your safe spot. Cortland, Hillsborough, along 72. If you're driving in the Athens area, Joe Wheeler Highway right now, another area, if you live along, you want to make sure you get to your safe place as well. And this goes all the way up into the Anderson and Western Limestone area. Athens, even though you're in the tornado warning and everything's probably going crazy on your phone, you might hear some sirens, this is still off to your west. It's racing towards you, but now would be that time to start thinking about getting to your safe place as well. Eric?
Yeah, and just kind of looking at the big picture here, we've got this line of wind, potential embedded circulations moving east about 55 to 60 miles per hour. Just giving you that updated storm track to give you the kind of that heads up of your arrival time here. Hatton, we've been talking about you a lot over the past couple of minutes. Rogersville approaching you at 11:40. It was about a 5-minute window there. Moulton 11:46. Hillsborough, Athens, then you've got Decatur, all of you under this tornado warning. 12:08 for Hartselle. Madison now, we're talking way downstream. This is going to be after midnight. And again, this is an overnight event. If you happen to know someone that might be sound asleep right now, it doesn't hurt to try and give them a call and let them know what's going on with the weather. More reports now coming from Lauderdale County. We've got another tree in our residence in the Florence-Killen area, talking about that straight line wind threat. Just very, very closely watching this. A lot more lightning now developing too in the Killen, Lexington, Rogersville area toward you and Anderson. Mount Rosal coming your way, Leicester, Coxey. Then you've got Bethel, Elkmont, and eventually Athens itself. Town Creek, you should be in your safe place right now as you're seeing the strongest winds moving across the area. And then farther south, the Cortland area too. This is a lot of wind we're dealing with, and now we're getting the ground truth, and that being the damage reports coming in from emergency managers in Northwest Alabama saying this is producing damage and will continue to do so as it moves farther east. And that's the trend that we're going to be tracking here for the rest of the evening and overnight.
Yeah, Eric, and pick up on that point. I'm going to kind of zoom in and take you to where the top part of the tornado warning is, the most northern part of it. It's right along the state line. So Leicester, Anderson, Mount Rosal for the reference points, Rogersville, Coxey, 72. So right in this area here, moving away from you in Killen, in St. Florian right now, St. Florine probably clearing out, or at least seeing the back edge of the winds diminishing a bit. Still some rainfall though. And then Lexington, Rogersville, and this takes you down 101 right through Town Creek. Leeton getting a little better for you. And then as you work your way into Cortland, I would imagine those winds are really picking up for you right now as this line moves closer to the area. Trying to see any kind of little notch in here. And Eric, and if I'm wrong, please tell me. I just don't see that notch right now, but I do see the potential for some very strong winds from Rogersville down to Cortland, and this will include Hatton. If you're in the Hatton area right now, I imagine very windy and very rainy as well. Moulton, it is literally just moments until you start to feel the rainfall coming down heavy at times, but I'd also imagine that those winds are going to pick up here too. And if we have any kind of little notch, maybe like just to the northwest of the Cortland area, this is an area of concern. This would be right by east of Leeton, traveling through Cortland, and then if you're moving into like the area of Trinity, or you're headed over to like Danville, that would be an area that we'd be concerned with here in the next few minutes. I'm going to take this down a little bit more to the south for you. Phil Campbell, lightning to your east, back edge of this moving away from you, and still raining for you, but the worst of the winds are away now, and they are continuing to move off to the east into portions of southern Lawrence County. This will continue to track into the Speake area. It will continue to move about 55 miles per hour. So this whole entire line is moving very quickly from west to east, Eric.
Yeah, Jeff, you actually beat me to it. Focusing on what's coming out of Haleyville, you can see that on the lower left-hand side of your screen. This is what we're watching. That's continuing to track to the northeast. So if you live in southern Lawrence County right now, very strong winds. There's a lot of lightning with this too. And sometimes I mentioned earlier, that's an indication of strengthening potentially in the line. Just going farther to the north now, this is right on top of you in Hatton along Alabama 101. If you know where where Alabama 33 is, coming north out of Moulton, heading toward you in Cortland, as well as Hillsboro and the Trinity area, and eventually Decatur. The tornado warning has now been shaved a little bit. So if you're in the Quad Cities, that being Florence, Tuscumbia, Muscle Shoals, Killen there, Leeton, you guys are no longer under the tornado warning. It's okay to come out of your safe places. But now we're focusing basically on Alabama 101. That's right where the strongest wind is, moving east down Highway 72 through you in Rogersville. Rogersville, Anderson need to be in safe places as well. Coming toward you in Leicester, out to Elkmont, Athens then. And this almost goes all the way up to the county line between Limestone and Madison County. A lot of wind here, frequent cloud to ground lightning, torrential rainfall. It is nighttime. Obviously, you will not be able to see anything. I encourage you to not be near windows whatsoever, let alone be outside. That's just not smart when you've got this much wind moving through the area. Continuing to just kind of monitor NWS chat, getting some more reports coming in. We've had trees coming down across the area. We've had several trees fall on homes here. We pointed out the heavy rain threat, the saturated soils, creeks, streams, and rivers still running on the high side too. So it might not take a severe wind gust to topple some trees. Focusing now on central and northern Lawrence County. Uintown Creek right now along 101, heading toward Alabama 157. This is going to be just in parts of Moulton and then toward Hillsboro here. Big line of wind coming in, possible areas of rotation too. And that's going to potentially lead some of you to losing power. Always good to have a radio with you. We do have several of our radio partners across the area that do continue to broadcast our coverage on the radio as we're tracking these storms.
Yeah, Eric, I'm just going to step back and show a big, broad picture of this. We focused on where the tornado warnings are. Just big picture for you. If you're east of 65 right now, you are still waiting for storms to get there, right? Huntsville, New Market, Scottsboro, Albertville. This doesn't happen for you until later, okay? So we got the storms headed your way. You're like, wow, they're off to our west. How much longer do they take to get here? Still got at least about a half an hour in Huntsville. But if you're in Decatur and your siren's going off, and I don't care if you're in northwest, southwest, southeast, northeast Decatur right now, the storm itself is still off to your west. You have a little bit of time, but now's the time. If you live along I-65 and you're in the Hartselle area up towards Decatur, into Priceville, up into Athens, into Tanner, all the way up into Ardmore, this line is coming your way. We've been tracking it very closely, and as it moves into your area, that's when we got to be mindful of any kind of spin-up tornadoes. We already are starting to get that ground truth right now of storms themselves that are producing damage. So we know it's happening. And we have proof of that by all the reports we're getting from the emergency personnel, emergency management personnel. And the severe thunderstorm warning goes all the way down into Double Springs now. So this is just a large area, north to south, of winds and rain and potential spin-ups. And the spin-ups are in this red box here, where you see anywhere from Decatur to Russellville to north up to Leicester to the state line. And that's where we could be looking at a little bit of spin-up rotation within this line itself. Nothing really jumps out right now that there is a potential spin-up tornado, but at any given time on this line, again, I talked about this earlier, it is so difficult to see some of those notches. But here's the timeline, and I talked about as these storms continue to move to the east, about 55 miles per hour. This puts some of your timeline where you're looking like in Decatur right now, it's 11:41, and it's still arriving for you just around the midnight hour. So you still got about 20 minutes, but you're still in the tornado warning, which gives you ample time to make sure that you can get to your safe space and be okay. If you are in the Speak area, 11:51. If you are in Leicester, it is real close, 11:44. You've got like 2 minutes to make sure you take cover, right? And this is where we're seeing the top end of that tornado warning right along the state line. But, you know, I've mentioned this, and you can't say it enough. I know the spin-up tornadoes get all the attention, and we want you to be safe, but there is probably some very strong straight-line winds associated with this line preceding the red and yellow here. So if you're in Coxsey or Leicester, even up into Pulaski where you're not in the warning, you're probably going to have some very strong winds as this continues to move west to east. And keep in mind, too, whatever heavy rain is falling with this, which is rain coming down very heavy right now. We just had a soaker on Tuesday and Wednesday, right? Everything is soft. Eric did a great job bringing this up. everything is vulnerable. Any kind of wind could cause probably more damage than usual just because we've been so wet for the past 3 or 4 days. And we're adding another quick 1 to 1.5 inches of rain with these downpours associated with the thunderstorm activity. Eric?
Yeah, Jeff, just using that shear rate tool again, if you, I'd say right over Anderson, Rogersville right now, I think if we have anything going on as far as rotation, it would kind of be between those two towns themselves.
Yeah.
And then potentially all the way down to Town Creek, too. Getting a report, 48 mile per hour wind gust there. That was from Cherokee. That was earlier, just after 11 o'clock. So that showed you what the wind was doing at the time. But now we're focusing on much stronger winds continuing to push in as we see this line really developing and really finding its strength. So if you're in Anderson right now, a little concerning showing up, as well as on top of you in Rogersville. These are where the strongest winds are going to be. That we're looking at basically on the radar. Jeff, you might be able to show this a little easier than I can.
Yeah, I took the lightning off. That lightning gets a little confusing because it has the same color as the shear rate. And so I took the lightning off. You go back to 1 for us, guys. You're doing a great job keeping up with us, bouncing back and forth, and we appreciate that. The shear rate, Anderson down to Rogersville to Cortland, and it's this area, and Eric, I really think this area right here in the Cortland area would be the area of concern right now. If you're in Cortland or just to the east of Cortland now, that line starting to move off to the east and up towards Anderson, you're seeing a little bit in the way of some shear rate, picking up more towards the weak side of it, but still an area that we'd probably be concerned with. I want to take you down here into the Cortland area, and this is the area that I think might have the most, right into this.
But you could even try from the high top radar too. See if
start moving over to high top, right? So like right in this area here. In fact, that's a great idea. Let me go ahead and do that, Eric.
But yeah, we're going to be in that area right now between the radar sites. Who gives you that better look at things? Definitely Jeff pointing out an area right now between Wheeler there, and you've got the Cortland area. This is on top of you, a potential rotation right now. All of us dealing with the concern at the moment of 60 plus mile per hour winds, and that's the reason for the severe thunderstorm warnings. And then the larger tornado warnings, that's going to be based on just the areas of rotation that we're tracking embedded in here. Very quick moving line of storms. I've got a quick storm track right up. So if you're in basically Anderson to Rogersville right now, it's on top of you. This is heading toward you in the Bethel area just after midnight for you in Athens. Time to start making sure that safe space is okay, cleaned out. You've got a flashlight with you. You've got a charger. You've got a way to continue watching our coverage if you lose power. And that's something that we're getting a few more reports of from parts of northwest Alabama. And looking at Priceville, 1212 here, eventually Madison, Mid-City, Huntsville, and down to Newmarket. A lot of people just kind of focusing on what's downstream. This might not be on top of you right now, but the reason we are on television because we are tracking this active line of storms with that threat for 60 plus mile per hour winds and the potential spin-up tornadoes.
Yeah, let's take you down. I want to try to bring you down to as close to street level as I possibly can. So here's reference. This is the area that Eric was just talking about, and this is in Anderson here. This is Highway 207, County Road 50, but it's this area here, County Road 95, County Road 52, and also up towards Highway 99 as it moves off to the east. So if you live on Sims Road, and I do believe that is Glendale Lane, and I really could use my glasses right now, but this area right here, as this line continues to move east, this would be an area of concern as the line moves a little bit closer to you. And I want to go down a bit more to the south and, Snake Road down towards Highway 72 as you work towards the Coxie area. This is also where Cox Road is as well. And Wright Road down towards this is the marina, a beautiful marina, Lucy's Branch Marina. And this is an area right here that would have maybe a little bit of a spin up when you just look at the shear tool. And again, this isn't like the end all. The shear rate is not going to instantly say that there's a spin up happening. But if we're going to have one, it would be probably by Davis Road and into this area here as you work your way south. Now you've crossed the Tennessee River and you've gone into County Road 400. Here's County Road 388, and you're getting a little bit closer now as you work your way down into the highway, Joe Wheeler Highway on 20. And it's this area right in here too, right by Alabama Highway 33, and just east of Cortland. This continues to move east, and this would be the area that we'd be tracking for maybe a little bit of a spin up. And you can see that with our shear rate. It does a great job. This tool is excellent in picking up on where some of those little small rotations could be. Eric?
Yep, still tracking that wind right now. Anderson to Rogersville. This is heading toward you in Athens. So if you are in Athens or one of the surrounding neighborhoods around the city itself, time to start going to that safe space and get the kids woken up and get that flashlight with you. Starting to talk more about the state line area, including you in Ardmore, just below the red banner there. Farther north, if we're looking at parts of Giles County now, Lawrence County, just a severe thunderstorm warning, but this is for that threat of strong straight line winds. Fayetteville, this is all coming your way too, and eventually we'll start to have these warnings extended into parts of Madison County. No word from the Weather Service in Huntsville if that will be a severe thunderstorm warning or a continuation of the tornado warning, but this wall of wind essentially is going to eventually cross over I-65, and as it does so, we could get reports of maybe some tractor trailer trucks kind of blowing over. That will give us a good idea of what kind of wind we're dealing with. Very rough right now in Hillsborough. This is again in Lawrence County, and this is heading toward you in Decatur. Moulton right now, probably seeing the worst of it. We've been showing that kind of extended storm track. I'm going to include now some more of our northern counties here, including you in Giles County. Quite a bit of lightning there coming out of Lawrence County. And just giving you kind of the more imminent threat here with the Hillsborough area. Just pointed you out. Pulaski, 1156. You've got Decatur just after midnight. Elkton there, 1204. Priceville, 1209. Madison, 1214. Providence, 1217. So tracking west to east, this is moving right along Highway 72. Some of the strongest winds right now moving out of Lauderdale County, now into parts of west, northwest Limestone County. And this is also going to affect the I-65 corridor. So if you know someone traveling north or south right now, and maybe give them that phone call and say, hey, just so you know, I'd get off the interstate. You've got a lot of wind coming away, a lot of lightning with this, and the potential for that quick spin up tornado. Jeff?
Yeah, Eric, this is a large area. You know, I think a lot of times when you have a line like this moving through, it's hard to comprehend how far north to south it really is, right? So from Pulaski all the way down to Fayette, if you are west of this line, you're pretty much done with this severe threat. There's still some rain that has to move through. This is all part of a cold front that's going to really drop our temperature tomorrow. But what it's doing is it's sparking all this severe weather potential, and where we have severe thunderstorm warnings in the yellow, tornado warnings in the red, now moving closer to Decatur now. Nothing confirmed. This is all radar indicated, and trying to find where those spin-ups are within the line. Very, very challenging. But where we think the tornado warning would be where we have a higher chance of some spin-ups, and that's why we've been telling you to take cover in areas like Hillsborough, Danville, into Decatur, into Tanner, all the way up as you work your way into Athens now. Now's that time to get into your safe place, the interior area away from windows, extending all the way south now to Double Springs, and this literally is a wall of rain and wind. And let me go ahead and put the velocity on for you, and I just want to kind of try to pinpoint where I can finally see where some of the strongest winds are. And of course, I'm going to get all the severe thunderstorm warnings. But let me go ahead and get the eyedropper going for you. And let me see if I can get that for you. And get some of the winds on here. For the most part, the winds themselves probably gusting up to 60 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour. And there they are. That's a 78, 79, 76. Okay, that's some wind. So I don't think that that's all reaching the ground right now, but I do think that when you start to take a look at the velocity and you see some of these stronger winds like that, where they are gaudy, up to 78, 79, 81 miles an hour, I don't think all that is reaching the surface right now, but you got to think that most of it is. So 60, 70 mile an hour winds all the way from Pulaski down to Double Springs. Again, and I think Eric did a great job of explaining this, a wall of rain and wind continuing to move west to east across our area, getting closer to I-65 right now. Eric.
Yeah, and just monitoring some of the comments we have on our Facebook live stream, people reporting power out on Highway 101 by the Hatton Town Creek area. That's going to be a big thing here. We're going to see the number of people without power with this line of storms moving in really jumping up. Jeff, right there south of Leicester, Alabama 99. This is going to be just east of Anderson. Looks like we might start to see some rotation. You just kind of see that pink color mixing in right over County 99 here, and then this is east of you in Anderson and Rogersville, but this is going to head toward Athens and eventually Elkmont here. So this area where Jeff was highlighting some of those strongest winds, this is moving right now. This is the county line between Lauderdale and now Limestone County, moving right over 99 south of you in Leicester. Leicester definitely being your safe spot, as well as Elkmont, because this is coming your way. But this is where we're going to have a big surge of wind, a possible area of rotation popping up with this too. Just moving a little farther south, Hillsborough, reporting you without power. I'm keeping an eye on our Athens camera right there along I-65, just pointing it to the west. I'm not pulling it up right now, but just a lot of lightning flashes here. Trinity right now, be sure to be in your safe place, as well as you in Decatur, Morgan County now, out there toward Mooresville, and then eventually this line of wind or wall of wind is going to start to track east down 565 heading toward you in Madison. So we have ongoing warnings across the area. Our coverage has been ongoing now for a while. If you're just joining us, a tornado watch in effect for all North Alabama and our Middle Tennessee counties until 4 a.m. The most widespread concern this evening will be damaging straight line wind gusts, but we have active tornado warnings because within that line, we might have some straight line winds, but also some areas of rotation too. Jeff, I see what you're doing there. That's very helpful. Just kind of shows you what's happened off to the west as this line moved through. A lot of reports of wind damage in the Florence Quad City area and also down into parts of Franklin County too. But ongoing warnings, this is coming for you right now in Athens. You'll start to hear that wind picking up and howling, a lot of thunder and lightning, along with the threat for torrential rainfall too. This line continues to move west to east at about 55 to 60 miles per hour. And a huge concentration of lightning right now as we move into central and southern Lawrence County. This is heading toward you in Speake too. So right along Alabama 33 and 36, and then eventually this will push toward you in Falkville, Hartselle, and Priceville, along with the Somerville area. So that is warned just for a severe thunderstorm warning. We're seeing more of those areas of rotation potentially. That's going to be east of the Anderson area toward Rogersville and to the east right now between Leicester and heading toward you in Elkmont. Jeff?
Yeah, Eric, I try to pull up the debris of the correlation coefficient, right? Be a little fancy with my words. But this is that area that you're talking about. And maybe like in the Coxie area or Anderson area, maybe seeing a little bit in the way of some rotation. It's so hard to see with these because of the setup that we have. But this area right in here, east of Rogersville into Coxie into Mount Roselle, would be an area where I'd be taking cover right now. Over towards Elkmont and Athens, especially if you're in northwest Athens right now would be the time to start to take necessary precautions to get into your safe place. Ardmore, Twins, and even up towards Elkton now. So parts of Tennessee, we talked about the Pulaski area, the northern fringe of where some of the stronger cells are right now. And that's where you have a severe thunderstorm warning at this time as we continue to track this wall of rain and wind like this. This extends all the way down through Trinity, Decatur. It's on your doorstep right now. If you're in western Decatur, you got some heavy rain coming your way, and right now these winds are picking up, and I imagine it's very windy. In fact, I have not looked at one of the web cameras yet, and I imagine in Decatur right now we're going to start to see that camera be shaken very soon as the line continues to go all the way down to Moulton and Speake and Grayson. Heavy rainfall, gusty winds, no tornado warnings on the south flank of this, but we are tracking those tornado warnings up to the north. And it does include the city of Decatur, includes the city of Athens. Again, reset the pause button here. If you are east, you haven't had anything yet. It's still headed your way. We're tracking these all the way till 4 o'clock in the morning. That's when they'll cross the Georgia state line. Whether they maintain their strength or not, I wouldn't bet against them right now because they've been holding their own through Alabama and Tennessee for the last hour and a half. So I would imagine as we go east, remember a tornado watch remains in effect until 4 a.m. And we are still tracking that potential all the way into Jackson and DeKalb counties going to tonight. But the highest concentration of severe weather now is almost parallel I-65 and will continue to move across I-65 here shortly. Eric?
Yeah, and getting reports now up to 3,300 people without power in Lauderdale County. That from Lauderdale County EMA. Still tracking these active warnings. And this is just an incredible line of wind moving in. Of course, that 60 plus miles per hour. We've been talking about that. This is heading toward you in Elkmont. This is going to move through Athens. Athens, think back not too long ago, you know how fast these things can wrap up very, very quickly and produce that quick spin up tornado. But now this is parts of Limestone County there, and including you in Athens, along Elkmont, Alabama 127 on the southern side of things, north and east of you in Hillsborough, kind of where we get that intersection of Lawrence County, Morgan County, Limestone County, right along the Tennessee River too. I've been keeping an eye on our cameras. I haven't seen anything other than darkness, heavy rain, and quite a bit of lightning too. Trinity, very noisy, moving through you right now and quickly heading toward you in Decatur, and then eventually entering the Mooresville area. And then we start talking about parts of Madison County. Spend a couple minutes so we can just give you that extended storm track, including our Middle Tennessee counties, and I'll even include you guys in southern parts of Morgan County here. Still just moving at that 55 to 60 miles per hour. We'll do this including the Huntsville metro area. So Athens right now, this is on top of you or knocking on your door if you're in western Athens in particular. Decatur 1203, Ardmore 1206, that's on both sides of the state line. Harvest 1211, Madison now pushing quarter after midnight. Providence 1216, Fayetteville 1222, Huntsville right now 1222, Lacey Spring as well as Newmarket closer to 1230. A lot of wind with this, probably 60 plus mile per hour winds. Is still tracking those ongoing tornado warnings. I believe they go until midnight, if not 12:15. So we're going to see what they're going to do in a second regarding these severe thunderstorm warnings. Are they extended farther east, or do they keep those tornado warnings going? Jeff?
Yeah.